Picking up dog poo and walking in the right lane going around the Bay Run. What have these two things got to do with each other? Well, before we get started, let's just have a look at this review from a year ago. And this is just after the lockdown started, and you can see there's a local resident complaining about behaviour on the Bay Run. And people argue about which side of the path they should be on. There's aggressive joggers and cyclists, tattooed shirtless thugs, and selfie-taking girls. And yeah, I have to agree with that assessment, because prior to the lockdown, the Bay Run was mainly populated by locals, and I'll call them a certain type of local, and they weren't tattooed shirtless thugs and selfie-taking girls. There were people that would go out and do the Bay Run every single day. And I know this because riding to and from work most days, I would see the same people day after day after day. You just get to know a whole bunch of faces as you're going around. And after the lockdown, what happened is all these people came out of the gyms, etc., because they couldn't go there, and they decided they'd do this instead. And particularly the Instagram taking girls all decided they would come down here because there's a nice backdrop, etc. But what's dog poo got to do with this? Well, if you own a dog, you know you have to pick up the dog poo when you take it out for a walk. And so if we look at a matrix like this, across the top axis we've got you know you need to do something or you don't know, and down the side you've got well you care about doing that and you don't care. So the top left hand box, obviously you know you've got to do something and you care about doing it, or you don't know it, you care about it. You might say, okay, you're a dog walker or dog owner, you're walking your dog does a poo, you see it, okay, you know you care, you pick it up. Or you might be talking to someone and you're not looking at your dog and it doesn't poo and they don't tell you about it. So you care about it but you don't know, and you just walk off not knowing about it. And hopefully some other nice person comes along and picks it up. But you get these people who have a dog and they know they're supposed to pick it up and they watch it do a poo and they don't care. And our local Facebook families group is always got people complaining about dog poo left on their verge by people doing exactly that. And then there's the clueless who don't know and don't care. Now I think the people along the bottom are responsible for the majority of the dog poo that's left in our parks and on our streets and on our footpaths and on our verges, because they just don't care. They might know they're supposed to do something, but they don't care. They're special. And it's the same when you go to, say, McDonald's. Now, I'm the sort of person that when I do go, I'll have my meal, I'll sit down and eat it at the table, and when I've finished, we pick everything up, all the wrappers, etc., put them on the tray, walk the tray across to the rubbish bin, throw everything in the bin, put the tray on the pile, and leave the table nice and clean for the next customer, because the staff aren't our mums. We don't expect them to come and clean up afterwards, just do the right thing. But there's people that know they should do that, they don't care. I mean, they're special, aren't they? Same with occasionally when I have to commute to work, there's a particular road I drive along where I've got to turn left, and there's a slip lane to turn left. And when things are busy, you have to get in that slip lane about half a kilometre before the intersection, because there's just this great long queue of cars leading up to the traffic lights. Now, every single time I do that, I get up to the lights, there's always some bonehead who comes racing down the right-hand lane and tries to push in at the last minute. And when I was doing this for a year or so, I'd see the same people doing it again and again and again. They knew they had to get into that slip lane, and they just didn't care. That it's that type of person. And I think thankfully, they're a very small percentage of the population, because otherwise, our McDonald's restaurants would be an absolute disaster area, and our streets would be knee deep in dog poo. But let's classify what these people are like. So down in the bottom right hand corner, the don't know, don't care type, I call them the clueless Instagram influencers, just not a brain in their head. Those that know they're supposed to do something and don't care about it, well, they're just assholes. If we go up into the top right hand corner where you've got people that care but don't know, well, when you use this in the context of the Bay Run, they're what I call the nice newbies. And what happened when I'll keep on going. And then you've got the normal people in the top left-hand corner. Now, what happened prior to lockdown is 95% or so of the people doing the Bay Run were up in the top left-hand quadrant. They knew where to walk and they cared about where they walked, and they paid attention, and they made life easy for everybody and safe as well, because cyclists are doing 5 to 6 times the speed of pedestrians, and you don't want traffic modes like that mixing it up in the same lane. You want to keep them separated so you don't have collisions and stuff like that. There was always a small percentage of people in the top right-hand box, people that would, tourists for instance, who would get bussed over here for the view, and they'd be wandering around all over the place, not knowing where to walk, and you just had to put up with them. And there were always a very, very small number of people in those two bottom quadrants, the arseholes and the clueless. But generally you didn't have many clueless. It was pretty good. But then after the lockdown started, what happened is we had this flood of people turn up. And you also had a lot of locals who knew what to do and hadn't been down here for a while, and so the top left-hand quadrant grew quite substantially, but the top right-hand quadrant absolutely exploded, because you had all these newbies coming from surrounding suburbs, never been here before, and they went from 5% of the people doing it to 60% or more. And you also had your assholes and your Instagram influencers grow as well, but thankfully not by too much. Now, what happened over a couple of weeks is, as those newbies kept coming back, they got to know what to do, and they started to shift from the don't know to the know quadrant. And you ended up in the situation where after a while you had all these people that now knew where to walk, and they cared about where to walk, and it was all good. Things settled down a lot, and it became less frustrating and less dangerous. There was still a reasonable number of newbies, because there was just this constant inflow of people coming in. But such is life. Now, what happened down on the bottom row is, did the number of assholes diminish? Unfortunately not. And how about the clueless Instagrammers? No, not until the gyms reopened. Really, they just kept coming back, unfortunately. And they're the kind of people that would stand around in the middle of the path, taking lots of duck face selfies with the background. It's like, just go away, go find a park or something to do that kind of thing. Now, what you would hope over time is those people who are in the don't care area might start to grow a conscience or a sense of social responsibility and move up into the top left-hand corner. Become people that actually care about how they affect other people around them. Just be normal, socialised human beings. And did I see any evidence of that happening? No, not really. And I think that's just because that's the mentality those people have got. They're special. People can have dogs for a decade and never pick up after them. They just leave their poo absolutely everywhere. They will never change. It's like the leopard that won't change its spots. So we continue to see this kind of horrible, tattooed, shirtless thug behaviour. And, it was went on for quite some time. So that's where my frustration stemmed from, was not these people up on the top row, the people that obviously cared about what they're doing and how they're interfacing with everybody else, but it's the people down the bottom, and particularly the assholes and the Instagram influencers, the clueless people who just don't pay attention and don't care. Now, if we have a look going over this bridge, you can see those two. There's going to be a couple of groups of walkers along here we'll have a look at. And you can see I'm just tootling along slowly behind the cyclist, two cyclists actually. Okay, chance to overtake because there's a bit of open space. But that's just what you have to do. You slow down, you brake, if necessary you come to a complete stop, to not stuff up other people's day. Okay, I've got room here to overtake, I'll go around and overtake, that's all good. But if I have to slow down, well, I've got brakes, I'll just squeeze the brakes like I'm doing right here. Okay, the jogger's gotten around, off I go. And you can see there's a little kid up ahead, so I've got to be careful about them. Where am I going to go? But look, there's these two blokes walking along right in the middle of the lane. and clearly the bloke on the right is on his phone, texting or whatever, doesn't care, and what side am I supposed to pass him on, the left or the right? This little kid here wandering all over the place is less of a risk than that grown man back there on his phone. And clearly did not care about where he was walking, wouldn't even bother looking up to check out where he's going. And of course we see those people all the time, when we're walking around town or whatever, that they're the kind of people that step in front of a bus and everyone wonders, well, how did that pedestrian get killed by that bus? Well, that's the kind of behaviour. They were so fixated on their phone and on their image or whatever that they walked in front of a bus. They're the kind of people that you can ring your bell at them, etc. Like, okay, here there's these two, they realise they're in the wrong spot, boom, straight across to the side. They were probably in the top right hand quadrant. They didn't know where they were supposed to be because they knew, but they cared. Good on them, thumbs up. These two, either clueless or arseholes. Now here we've got an older couple pushing a pram in the bike lane, and there's plenty of room for me to go around, and I guess they're there because that might be another one of their grandkids on the bikes. They think, oh, we should be in the bike lane. Okay, problem is there was another cyclist coming the other way, and you can see they've had to go into the pedestrian lane to get around that couple in the bike lane. And I guess they're lucky there wasn't a cyclist coming the other way. Couple of ladies there just strolling along in the bike lane. Yeah, okay, you can say, look, there's absolutely plenty of room there. It's a nice wide lane. I got around it without any issues. But you can see this jogger now needs to go around them. You have to consider that there's a fair amount of two-way cycle traffic along here. So there could have been more cyclists coming up behind her. There could have been more coming up behind me, and that's where you start to have conflicts. So, as I'm just showing here, the two-way traffic, that it's not a one-way street, and you have to leave. The reason the bike lane is wide is so cyclists going at 25 kilometres an hour or so in each direction have plenty of room to pass, and there's also plenty of room for kiddies, etc., to wiggle around. So if you've got ladies like that taking up half the path, it becomes really difficult for parents like that coming the other way with a kid to get around them safely. So anyway, hopefully that has given you an idea of why picking up dog poo and walking in the right place goes together quite well.